Live from a grungy kitchen table located in Annapolis, Maryland's scenic and historic capital, it's the Maryland Crabs Podcast. With each episode, your hosts, Tim Hamilton, John Fernay, and the occasional guest will dive in and pick apart the stuff that really matters most to you. We're too lazy to actually solve any of these problems, but we can definitely stir the pot. From schools, politics, parking in the fire lane, to those horrible people who drive BMWs. And here with this week's episode, live from the kitchen table, Tim Hamilton and John Fernay.
Hey there, this is John, and I am flying solo this week. Not for any particular reason other than my schedule and Tim's schedule totally didn't mesh. So nobody's on assignment, nobody's in Bora Bora, nothing fun like that. Just me, because that's the way the schedule worked out. Coming up next weekend is one of my favorite events in the area, the Chesapeake Bay Blues Festival. And it is a big anniversary for them. This is the 20th Chesapeake Bay Blues Festival that they have done, and the headliners are incredible. It'll be a great time to get out there and see some blues right on the bay, right at the foot of the Bay Bridge. It's a spectacular venue. It's a spectacular place to be. Don Hooker put this thing together 20 years ago. Has been going strong ever since. He's brought his daughter Sarah into the mix. She is deep into it and ready to carry it on well into the future. And we sat down with them and talked about the blues. We talked about some of their most memorable interactions they've had with some of their headliners, the types of crowds they have, what to expect, how to keep it fresh, the charities they support. And it's really important to note that this is 100%... And that was Tim beeping in on me. But it is important to note that 100% of the proceeds of this go to charity. And I think that was really evidenced when James Brown told Don Hooker, hey, take your money and give it to the kids that you do this for. What a powerful statement there. If you don't have tickets, you can go get them. You can get them at bayblues.org, and they are a little bit cheaper online in advance than they are at the gate, but you will be able to get them at the gate. And some of the acts that you can expect to see are Brian Setzer from the Stray Cats, Delbert McClinton, Mike Zito, Shamika Copeland, Kebmo Band, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, and plenty more. So right after this break, we're going to come back with Don Hooker and his daughter Sarah Petska, who are going to talk about the Chesapeake Bay Blues Festival coming up at Sandy Point Park on the 19th and the 20th. Oh, and real quickly, I do want to apologize in advance. We recorded this at the Commons, and apparently it's haunted or it's got some gremlins, but there is an awful lot of thumping going on in the recording. Try to minimize it as much as possible, but it is there. If it irritates you, it was Tim's fault. So sit tight. We're going to talk some blues. Hey, it's May, and it's Maryland Podcast Month. No, Hallmark didn't invent this puppy, so there's no need to get a card, but do yourself a favor and give a listen to some of the other Maryland-based podcasts. Our right-wing friends, hey, they called us liberals first, at Red Maryland have put together a website called MarylandPodcastMonth.com, and it lists all of the podcasts that are participating this month. Throughout the month of May, many of us will be showing up on other Maryland podcasts as guests, and we'll have all sorts of antics throughout the month. Among the participants are Red Maryland and I on Annapolis, of course, and then others to cover every topic you can possibly think of. Podcasts such as Quality Time, The Maryland Crabs, A History of Maryland, The Conduit Street Podcast, Laugh Finder, The Extra Point Show, Society Fringe Players, The Mark and Lowell Show, The Engine Mom Podcast, and quite a few more. So go to MarylandPodcastMonth.com, check it out, get familiar with a new podcast near you, and of course, please let all your friends and associates know as well. And we will see you all May during Maryland Podcast Month. We are here at the Commons, and we are with two people that are maybe not household names, but certainly their product is. We've got Don Hooker and his daughter, Sarah Petska, who are the two main people, I would say, and they may disagree with me, but behind the Chesapeake Bay Blues Festival, which is coming up very shortly on May 19th and 20th at Sandy Point Park. How are you guys today?
Good. How about you?
Good.
Good. Big year for you guys.
Yeah, 20th year.
20 years.
20 years.
And this, Don, this is your thought. You had a bad dream one time and said, I think we need to do this.
I'm to blame.
I mean, what was the impetus to do this 20 years ago?
When I was in my 40s, I got addicted to the blues. I went to some blues clubs in Chicago, and from that point on, I mean, I loved them. I went to with a friend of mine a blues festival in California, and I said, I can do this. So when I owned a computer company at the time, so I really probably should have said that. But we went. I was driving to the Bay Bridge one day. And I said, that's where I want to do a charity blues festival one day. And we worked at it and got the state of Maryland to give a computer program in the park for a week, and had a lot of friends help me with setting the festival up and getting contacts for food vendors and fence and all the things you need contacts for. And then we used a national booking agent to book the acts the first year, and then after that I've done it myself. But it's just so that's how it happened.
Lifelong blues fan?
Not lifelong, but certainly since since midlife. Rock and roll fan before that, but once you listen to real blues, you understand the connection.
That's true. And you are local. You live right here in the area.
Lived in Southern Maryland, in Annapolis for 5 years, but now live down in Southern Maryland.
Awesome. And Sarah, you have been involved in this for how many years?
All 20.
All 20?
All 20. I started as a volunteer cleaning dressing rooms. Worked my way up.
The undertaking is phenomenal. If anybody's never been to the Blues Festival, you're missing out on, between that and the Polar Bear Plunger, probably the two premier events in the Annapolis area that you've got to see. Sandy Point Park is just the most intense, beautiful backdrop with the Bay Bridge there. And you guys always set it up so the stage is, as you look at the stage, just off to the left, you see the Bay Bridge going there. I love to see the boats out there just mooching off of the free music.
Right.
Yes, so do we.
It adds to the ambiance.
They do. Well, I know when R&R does their Rock and River cruises, they'll take the Harbor Queen up the Severn, and they'll have a band playing on it, and it looks like those whales with those little leech fish that, with all these little boats just right beside it. It's kind of funny, but the talent that you guys have brought here throughout the years, and I probably should start and say that the headliners this year, on Saturday night, you've got Brian Stetzer and his Rockabilly Orchestra, which is from the Stray Cats fame, I guess, is where he's probably most notably known for. Delbert McClinton.
Yes.
Mike Zito. And then on Sunday, you've got Kenny Wayne Shepherd and Kev Moe and Shamika Copeland, who's always just a great performance as well. And that's certainly not all. I mean, you fill up the whole day, both days. And one of the nice things is that you do bring some local talent in as well. I know that you've had Dean Rosenthal's been there several years. I know that I believe Sweet Lita played.
Was there last year.
Yep. And there's several local bands, and it's just a great event, and it does benefit some local charities. Now, what are the charities that you guys are selecting to? I know you've got the camp.
Special Love has 2 camps for kids with cancer and for the siblings of kids with cancer. And they're really the forgotten ones because, these are kids that are pretty much left on their own when their parents are running back and forth to hospitals and chemo treatments. And so they have 2 camps, and it really was the sibling camp that got me interested. So Special Love is one of the charities. And then We Care and Friends, which is Larry Griffith's charity locally in Annapolis, helps kids, people who have fallen through the cracks, homeless.
Well, Larry's got a tremendous backstory of himself.
Sure.
Of success and where he's done. And We Care and Friends is one of the great small little things. And I imagine that the benefit that you guys give them is huge.
According to him, it is. I've known, but Larry.
I don't think he has any reason to bullshit. I think it's really huge as to what it does, and I know that he does a lot of the security and trash pickup and whatnot to help.
He does a lot, and he's there. Wednesday when I start setting up, and Tuesday when I'm finished breaking down. Larry's there the entire time. Larry was instrumental when we first set this thing up. I've known Larry since high school.
Okay.
So Larry and I played football against each other in sandlot football, and I used to hate, when I was a middle linebacker, he was a running back. I hated when he came at me. I hated it. He was such a big guy. But Sarah worked at Surfside 7 when it was still around on the South River, and Larry was playing, Mama Jamma was playing there one night, and however they got to talk, and he knew her last name, and he said, I used to know some guy from the day, and that's how we got back together again.
20 years, Don and Sarah, too, and you probably have both different things. What's your most memorable act that you brought in here?
James Brown.
And you?
Ray Manzarek, actually. Okay. Very off the wall, but I love the Doors.
You know what? I agree with you. I was when I was there for the Ray Manzarek, which was, I believe he died the following year.
Yes.
He did.
I didn't realize, I know some of the big names of the bands. I didn't know I knew Ray Manzarek was in the Doors, but I didn't realize that he had such a strong voice of the Doors.
He was the sound of the Doors.
And he gets up there, I'm like, whoa. And personally, one of my favorites was when Trombone Shorty was here, and I didn't forget what year it was. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And there was some kid in the audience with a green trombone sitting there playing along, and Shorty brings him up, and I said, okay, this is just totally set up. This is a total setup. This is great. We're sitting here watching, and I watched the kid come off a stage, damn near collapsed, and was in tears. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, this is legit. This is he played with his hero. Yeah. And it's and again, that sort of speaks to the variance that you've got. We've got James Brown, we've got Ray Manzarek, and we've got Trombone Shorty, and we're going way back, and somebody that's really new. It's just one of the things I had mentioned before we started was that I love that the artists will come back and they'll sit at their tables and they'll talk and they'll take pictures and they'll sign autographs, and people will bring the memorabilia.
Yeah, most of them do that. I mean, I think that 95% of them will do that.
And most of the artists come back and they are blown away by our crowd. I mean, this is a great crowd. They come and talk to us when they're done signing. And, I could have stayed out there all day if I had the time, because they do just enjoy the people that come to the festival and that whole atmosphere of the bay right there and the people. And
well, the crowd is very unique, very diverse. I love talking to people. Where are you from? What have you done? And we've got this retired guy, run into a retired guy, and he just does nothing but blues festivals all summer long. That's his thing, and he does the circuit every year, every summer to the blues festival. You've got some that will just follow a particular artist from here to here to here to here. I say you do obviously draw regionally, but you don't draw exclusively regionally. Right. I mean, we've got the Chesapeake Bay Blues Festival, but I mean, we're getting people from the Deep South. We're getting Midwest, Chicago, New York,
Australia, Great Britain, Canada, California.
There you go. And it is a world-class event with world-class talent that comes in here.
Thank you.
You change up the vendors that are there. I mean, obviously it's the festival, so you've got people selling the things,
right,
and people with the food and whatnot, and that changes up also as well. So it's not always the same thing that you see at so too many festivals. It's like, oh, well, hey, look, they're selling gutters. Just what I need. Who knew?
Just what I came here for.
Yeah. So it's always refreshing to get there. You do have a VIP thing, and I understand I can't get VIP tickets now, right? Because they go like that.
They sold out in December this year, which is the first time they've sold out that quick.
And that's a limited, so for those who are looking into 2019, that's a very limited number. There's what, like 300 or 400?
500.
500?
There's 500 and...
That's 250 couples. We sell them in packages.
And you've got your little VIP corral. Right. With little VIP close-up bathrooms, with a great VIP view of the stage.
For our age group, the VIP bathrooms is the seller.
Give me any festival and they say VIP bathrooms and I'm sold.
Right.
You give me parking and it's a bonus. I don't care about unlimited booze or anything like that. But access and a bathroom will do it for me there.
Separate half the stage. It's not like they take up the whole stage like they do a lot of festivals. We separate half the stage, and half the stage is general admission, half is VIP. So everybody has the opportunity to get up front. Well,
there's not a real bad seat in the house, if you will. I mean, because if you want to be up close and personal, there is that space between the crowd and their chairs, so you can get up there, you can dance, you can be within a long arm's reach from the stage.
Right.
You can plant your chair and your low-lying umbrella and just sort of sit there and chill out for the day.
The big advantage is the jumbotrons. To having a good seat anywhere in the place.
And you've got two of those, right? On either side of this?
Two big ones on either side. And that we weren't going to do this year because we lost our Jumbotron sponsor, but I got so much pushback from everybody.
He's pointing to Sarah, yeah. It's like, no, you can't not do that.
You can't take them away now. I love those.
Well, yeah, and again, you also put speakers out into the back of the field as well there.
Right, with delay stacks. Yeah.
So you've got people that are back there just sitting there dancing, they're having a good time, they're having a conversation. Right. You've got some wonderful beer, you've got some wonderful food that's there as well. Activities for the kids. Right. And it is truly a family thing. This is not just an old guy and old girl type of a festival. And it's kind of cool when you see young kids that are there.
I mean, the first years we had 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds here, and now they're in their 20s, so graduates from college, and they're coming back and they're bringing their kids, the next generation. So it really is
multi-generational. I remember when I first saw a Grateful Dead show, and it was like, this is so cool. This is such a multi-generational thing. I sit here and I can see like the 80-year-old grandpa grooving. Yeah. I can see the 40-year-old parent grooving. And right next to him was a little 2-year-old, also grooving. I'm like, very few.
That's poor parenting, is what that
is. Absolutely. Now, Sarah, are you a blues fan? Are you eclectic, or is that by definition? Or
I did not start out as a blues fan. I didn't really get the whole blues thing the first year he did it. I was like, nobody's gonna come, this is blues music, and I fell in love with it that year. And from that point on, I've learned so much. I was listening to Bluesville the other day, and I'm like, oh, I know who that is. Oh, I know who that is. Oh, I know who that is. And it's finally hit me that, and it did, like my dad said, when you do start listening to the blues, you do really get a feel for how it ties into rock and roll. And I grew up on Led Zeppelin and the Doors, so this all tied in together. We went to Memphis and we did a bunch of the blues and rock and roll tours, and so I've learned a lot through these 20 years.
Well, you guys got an award this year.
We did.
Well, tell me about that.
We got the Keeping the Blues Alive Award. So we were one of 2 festivals this year that won it, us and Byron Bay. And it was basically given to us for the 20 years of work we've done in efforts to, promote blues music, continue blues music.
Was there a year that you skipped?
We skipped a few years.
Skipped a few years?
The first time we skipped, there was a bad economy. I was a business owner. It was a bad economy, so I had to quit the blues festival, pay attention to the money tree.
Okay.
So that was a couple of years I skipped. And then, various reasons we had taken a year off here or there, and sometimes you just burn out. Because it's just the 2 of us that prep this festival for 6 months, and sometimes you just burn out and you have to leave.
I can hear you there. Now that was so is this your 20th festival?
No,
or the 20th
20
year?
Years of festival. But even the years we took off, we did 2 festivals down in Southern Maryland each year.
Right.
The Southern Maryland Blues Festival. We did a smaller festival over on the Eastern Shore at Red Eye Stock Bar. I forget what we called it. We did a bluegrass festival somewhere, and so we didn't leave completely.
Didn't leave completely, sure. What's new and exciting for this year? I mean, obviously we've talked a little bit about the lineup, but what's new and exciting for the Chesapeake Bay Blues Festival this year? Anything?
Well, we've got 2 other charities that have come in that are not really a support charities for us, but they're charities that we want to give the opportunity to tell their story. One of them was here last year. It's water.org. It's the one that Matt Damon promotes. And Sarah generously offered to put Matt Damon up if he's in town.
Right. Yeah. It was funny. His daughter toured my daughter's school, American University in D.C. And it was funny. He said when Matt and his wife, who is, I believe, Spanish, were there, it was like this little centipede following him all around campus with all these people looking for him. But,
and then the other one is Themalicia, which is actually tries to educate, help feed kids in Africa that have been devastated by the wars that are going on in South Africa.
Okay.
And the just leaving, particularly, I guess, what's the name of the ones that kidnapped everybody?
Boko Haram?
That's it.
Right.
Boko Haram. I should remember that because it's the name of a rock group from the 60s.
I mean, with water.org, and I know that they did the with Stella Artois, and they did the chalices. Will they'll be there?
They'll be there again in addition to Themalicia doing.
That was a great thing that Katzef Brothers did that, and they're selling the chalices, and I think that Neil had pledged to sell, I think something like 25,000 chalices or something like that.
Something ridiculous,
to do that, and they're doing it. So.
Yeah. He's been with us from the first year. Neil has sponsored this festival.
Katzef is a great partner. They do an awful lot. I know that they did life vests at Sandy Point for boaters that went out that didn't have life vests.
Right.
You could take one and use it, just honor system, bring it back, different things like that. The water thing, I was amazed when I was talking to water.org that the proceeds from this chalice, which is like, I think $275 or $375 per, over the cost, is enough to like 2.5 months of water for somebody, and it's just unbelievable. And I've got several chalices at home, so if anybody's there and you see them for sale, buy the Stella chalice.
it's worth it. Does a lot of good.
We have a local Annapolis band called Naptown Brass Band. I don't know if you've heard of them, but
yes, they've done a couple of first lines up Main Street. I know when Boo Valdez had passed away, they led a first line band up from City Dock all the way up.
So they're coming out to the parking lot, and they're going to entertain the folks that are standing in line before the gates open in the parking lot, and then they're working for beer.
Open the gates, open the gates, and lead them in.
Yeah, that's basically what they're doing, like we've done with the Mummers from Philadelphia in years past.
Do you like them? Oh, you do like the Mummers. I remember seeing something on your Facebook page. I'm from Philadelphia.
Okay.
And I can't stand those Mummers.
Really?
I just
come on, man. They're classics.
I just really can't. It's people.
What part of Philadelphia? You must be from northwestern Philadelphia.
Well, actually outside. I'm in Montgomery County, but it's
okay. So you're not a real Philadelphia.
But I do go up there a bunch. I mean, hey, I'm a Phillies and an Eagles fan, so. People say, what is with the Mummers? They said they're grown men drunk dressed as chickens. That's the best I can come up with on New Year's Day. And I just don't like, there's certain instruments that I can't stand. I can't stand bagpipes. Okay. And I'm not real big on banjos and accordions, which kind of eliminates the Mummers. But
for you, that would eliminate the Mummers.
Who and what are you looking most forward to? Besides the 21st.
the day
that would be Monday.
This year? Who am I looking forward to this year?
Yeah.
I'm interested to see Taz Niederauer. He's a 14-year-old kid that is just phenomenal on guitar. He plays Saturday morning, so I'm really looking forward to seeing Taz, I think.
Was there a viral video of him like on a cruise ship or something?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, who was it a couple years ago that brought along a protege that he...
Buddy Guy brought.
Yes.
Quinn Sullivan. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That was phenomenal. I remember him telling the story about how he knocked on the door and was like, hey, can the boy come out on tour with me? It's like, wait a minute. Buddy Guy is here at my house asking if my son can go with him. That's kind of creepy, but okay. Send him on the way. What are you looking forward to, Sarah? Anyone?
Noah Hunt.
Thanks, Dad.
Kenny Wayne Shepherd singer.
I'm a huge fan of Kenny Wayne Shepherd,
okay.
So I'm looking forward to having them back. Some of the early acts that always blow us away. We had Mr. Sip last year. Mr. Sip's coming back this year. They were so much fun.
He'll sipmatize you.
Yes.
It's the early
Samantha
acts
Fish was tremendous a couple years ago.
So we have Heather Gillis this year, who I think will be one of those, you'll be blown away. And Vanessa Collier also, who's opening on Saturday morning, who's a very young local talent, but just phenomenal as well. So it's the early acts that I'm always most interested in. I mean, I don't get to watch any of it, but just hearing it, they're the ones that the people who know the festival best come early because they know they don't want to miss those acts.
Well, you bring up a great point there that you've got an opportunity to really discover, I don't want to say undiscovered, but I mean some talent that you may not necessarily know. When I came, I didn't know who Samantha Fish was. I was like, wow, she kind of blew me away. Trombone Shorty, I think when I saw him here, he was
pretty big.
He was on his rise there. I know there's a great fiddler called Amanda, that'll come to me, but out of New Orleans.
Okay.
And she's classically trained violinist, and she's, you see these young artists, these people there, it's like, wow, and you're just blown away by the talent. And it's a whole new different genre. I know sometimes I've gone to Ram's Head without knowing who I'm going to see. And there was an artist, and I thought it was a comedian, but it's got the same name as a Texas artist, a musician. And I thought I was going to see a comedian. And this guy gets up and he's like got the guitar out and whatnot. I'm like, okay, but he's good. But it's, that's the nice thing.
Well, Blind Boy Paxton is on Sunday, and I've heard that he is entertaining. I mean, he tells stories that it just cracks everybody up. So I'm looking forward to seeing him too. Mm-hmm. He's early in the day as well. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever? You won the award, Keeping the Blues Alive. Have you ever thought about shifting from the blues or adding to the blues? Because I mean, if keeping the blues alive, that sort of indicates that some people may feel it's dying.
It is dying.
Is the Blues Festival going to continue to be relevant in another 20 years from now?
Probably not. I mean, I would say that, we have an audience now, and blues has an audience now, but it's we can see it. It's less and less and less each year. And if you look at a lot of the festivals that even today call themselves Blues Festival, very little of it is blues anymore. And some of the even local festivals, I won't name names, but they've switched from blues festival to a music festival, just to bring in Americana acts, country acts that sell, and actually, you can sell big money tickets for.
Just to get people in the door and to sell the tickets.
Right. I mean, we struggle every year. I mean, it's a struggle every year because first of all, the big promoters are hard to compete with. A lot of it is a monopoly. The little promoters have to, but still, we have to pay the same prices they pay.
Sure.
We get blocked by a lot of big festivals because festivals now are blocking multi-state regions from anybody else playing that artist.
Sure.
And they just throw enough money at that artist that we can't book them. So we're competing with that. It gets harder every year.
Do you see a time when the festival just stops, or will you change?
I don't think I'll change. I don't see us changing. I shouldn't say never, because we could possibly change genres, or we could at least mix in more popular acts into the. I mean, I could we have another generation taking over the blues festival, so I'm sure she'll add more acts more contemporary acts than I have now at the festival that I book.
Well, I think it is kind of neat that we've got an intergenerational audience, and we've also got intergenerational management here, where, I'm going to say with your fandom of Kenny Wayne Shepherd,
yes,
may not necessarily have been somebody that would have been on your radar 15 years ago doing it.
Well, doing it for charity, it's still a business to me, and I'm still trying to raise money for the charities. Typically, I don't necessarily book who I want to see. I book who has the most potential for selling tickets. That sounds cold, but that's what provides checks to the charities.
Truth to the rumor that you sleep under the stage in a hammock?
And I've thought about it many times, but I'm there at 5:00 on Saturday morning. I see the sunrise on Saturday morning, and I'm there midnight Saturday night before going back. And there's parties going on all over the place that we could be going to, but we can't because we have another day to tweak, the things that went wrong.
Do you actually stay on site during the festival?
I stay on site all festival, but not at night. I definitely go back
home and get in your own bed and
right. No, I don't go home. I stay in Annapolis,
a hotel, and try to recover a little bit anyhow, not on a thing. How big is your team for volunteers? Do you need volunteers? How do you?
No, we've been blessed. I mean, a lot of the volunteers we've had have been here, if not the first year, from the early years. Some of the volunteers originally came from family and came from the company that I owned that are still volunteering to this day, because at the time they weren't really volunteers, but they were told to volunteer.
Right.
But they're still coming back to this day. We're lucky that we have them, because that's the easy part of it, because there's 200 of them, roughly 200 of them, and they used to be that we had 2 shifts a day, so for 4 shifts and 200 people per shift, and that's 800 people. Well, now it's 200 people for the whole festival, because they work both shifts for the most part. Okay. And they know what they're doing. So you don't have to tell them every year what's your job.
To a degree, it's lather, rinse, and repeat.
Right. Exactly.
And I always work the merch tent. I always work the ticket sales, or whatever it may be.
That's it.
And I know what to do when there's a problem. That's good.
Now, there is a waiting list for the beer tents, I can tell you.
Okay. Wow. Problems. Rain. I know a couple of years ago with Joe Bonamassa, and he had his underwater tour. Yeah. I've jokingly said with any festival, not necessarily a blues festival, but it's not a real one until there's rain.
Yeah. And that was the one I was probably most proud of, because, it was the worst rain we've had. It was just ridiculous conditions. I think most festivals would have had to have shut down, honestly. Mm-hmm. And I was proud that the volunteers hung in there, the fans hung in there, the artists all went on, and we were in 2 feet of mud. We were all standing 2 feet. People lost their shoes.
I remember it was above ankle.
Yes.
In muck. Yeah. And I mean, it's not even grass at that point. It was muck. We're a little bit early out for a weather forecast, but and you've had some beautiful weekends as well.
Right.
We started in '98 with a rainy, cold, windy weekend, and people came, and a ton of people came, and we knew, wow, this was something great. And so when we have sun, it's great. When we have rain, it happens, but the people still come, and the volunteers stay, and when you work through it, you have to make it work.
Well, they do. It's also, and I don't want to.
It's not the blues without rain.
This sounds a little bit, not going to sound exactly right, but I mean, it's not a cheap festival. I don't mean to think that it's expensive for what you get. It's a bargain for what you get. A smaller festival that may be here at the fairgrounds that I've spent $15 or $20 for a ticket and it rains, that's a throwaway to me.
Right.
But the people that are coming to your festival are here for the music. They're committed when they drop down the money for that, or whether it's for the pair of VIP tickets or whatnot. And
you make a good point, because I think our tickets the first year were $25 a ticket, which was even expensive by standards 20 years ago. But for the level of talent that we thought it was fair, I feel bad about the ticket prices, honestly. But I can't compete. I mean, it's not worth doing if those ticket prices aren't where they're at, because the artists are charging so much now, and rightly so, because they used to make money on CDs.
Off of records and CDs, right?
They can't make money on CDs anymore.
Sure, no, they're all touring.
Because of the pirating, because of the MP3s. They can't do it anymore, so they have to make it on live appearances. And, that mixed with, the predatory promoters that are out there, the ticket prices have to be where they are. And the reality is, if you go to see one band at Ram's Head, you're paying $85 a ticket.
Sure. I mean, they've had a couple. They've had a couple shows that are over $100.
And that's one act.
Yep.
Yep.
I have to give you guys credit. When I first started with in Annapolis, you had given me. We had promoted the first year we promoted with you. You had given me some tickets to give away, and when I checked, there was like 8, and I can't remember how many you had given, but there were like 8 that went unused, and it just incensed me. And I'm like going, there are people that would give left and right body parts to have been there. And for whatever reason, you felt, oh, well, I didn't spend anything for the money or for the ticket or whatever the winner's mindset was. I was just so incensed. So now what I do is I turn around and I like to get a hard ticket when I give it away. So it's something physical as opposed to something that I have to go pick up.
Right.
And I've told people, I keep a list of people. If I find out that they don't go, I keep a list, and it's like, yeah, sorry, you're not doing it.
Not eligible.
I'm not. I'll turn around and look. I'll say, yeah, no, this name comes up familiar. You didn't, but I'm thinking, the talent that was there, and I can't remember what year it was, but the talent that was there, and it was essentially a sold out show, both for VIP as well as you do sell out.
I mean, we get close on GA. I mean, the park really, park has a limit. You can basically hold 40,000, 50,000
right.
people in that size park, but we limit it, and Sarah and I get together with the park just for sanity's sake, because you stress the logistics. You stress.
You absolutely. I mean, I saw the picture. I think when it was the Jerry Garcia, the Jerry Fest. I think it was what it was called at Meriwether Post. There was a helicopter picture of it, and it looked like the worst weekend at Ocean City on the beach that you could possibly imagine. Right. I mean, people were just crammed in, and I'm like, oh, that looks just absolutely miserable.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, you want it to be, you also, if you get greedy, it's going to bite you. You can't get greedy. I mean, you have to put on a good show. It has to be a comfortable, nice environment. It has to be a good vibe. So.
And you hear these festivals that oversell. It's like, well, yeah, I spent 45 minutes in line to get a cold piece of chicken or something like that. And then you get the reputation as being a greedy
Absolutely.
SOB that wants,
The word gets out that's, the kind of festival you are, that you have to wait in line for bathrooms the whole time, and the lines for the beer tents are, and nobody wants that. Everybody wants,
right. I want to wait in a reasonable line, get a beer, get a reasonable food, get back and improve.
And sit down and watch some more music, because our changeovers are so quick to get everybody, the longest set we can, so we want you to be able to get your beer and get back.
They do. You do a very good job of stage management. I will say that it's you get somebody up there to do a little bit of patter in between, and next thing you know, it's like, okay, well, we're ready to go.
Yeah. Yep. That hurts us a little bit, because the longer break you have, the more beer you sell.
Okay.
I mean, that's just.
All right.
But we want to also get all of these bands in and give them the longest set that we possibly can give them.
Right.
So it's a balance there. But and going back to the ticket prices. I mean, we have not had one complaint about the ticket prices being ridiculous.
It's all about value.
Yeah,
is what it is. And another great one that I love was Greg Allman.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a big one. That was a big one for us too.
That was a pretty phenomenal show.
Yeah.
Who you toying with for next year? Any idea?
Oh no, I don't even think about next year. Right now, I'm not doing next year. I'm at the not doing next year stage right now.
Okay. Who would be your dream? If you could book anybody? If money was no object?
We tried early on to book Clapton when we first started doing the festivals, and we got close one year. He was willing to do it.
Who was that?
Eric Clapton.
Okay.
We got close one year, but all artists that big have clauses in their contract that say, well, something better comes along, we're going to take it, and something better
came along.
Yeah, I think it was an MTV.
Something better than Don Hooker's Chesapeake Bay Blues Festival for Eric Clapton.
Go figure. But I think it was the MTV Unplugged session that he did that made him miss that festival. I believe that's what it was. But I talked to this person. Yeah, and he keeps a boat here in Annapolis. So
Clapton would be your...
That would be the one, from a business perspective, that would be the one that would sell tickets. So strictly as a businessman, it would be Clapton.
Okay.
But personally, I have to think about that one, because it probably wouldn't be Clapton. But it would.
Do you have a gold standard for somebody?
I always wanted Alvin Lee from 10 years after.
Yeah, it's too late for that.
And he passed away a year or two ago now.
We actually put an offer into him, and he was sick, and we had... and they told us he was sick.
Right.
And so that would have been the one of the blues genre, the bluest blue and I was sad. That made me sad. So I don't know. I've seen everybody. Buddy Guy was great. You know, every time we get to see Buddy Guy. So I guess I'd say Eric Clapton too would be nice.
It'd be nice for the crowd to draw. It's like you said, the gold standard for a blues festival.
Yeah. All right, so what is give me some behind the scenes thing. What is the most memorable moment? And it doesn't have to be an artist. Of your 20 years with the Chesapeake Bay Blues Festival.
You got 20 years for me to play. I said James Brown. James Brown was one of the only national artists that ever gave money back that we paid him. He came. I talked to him for about half an hour in his dressing room about the 60s and the riots in D.C. and his career and trouble he's been in. And when I was done, I walked outside. He came out and he handed me $2,000 in cash. Says, "Give this to them kids you do this thing for." So, wow. So that was a memorable moment. Sitting with Ray Manzarek backstage, talking about Jim Morrison in the 60s.
Right.
That was pretty memorable.
I sat with Chuck Berry, and they had a child with cancer who had just had a brain tumor removed. And so he lost his sight from the surgery and the cancer. And Chuck Berry signed the back of his shirt for him. And as he signed it, he said every letter he was spelling out and exactly what he wrote on the back of this kid's shirt, so he knew exactly what was there. And it was just one of those moments where you're like, this is why we do it. It was just was a very powerful moment. So
that's amazing. Both of those.
Yeah. And then I won't tell you about going to the store to get Pine Top Perkins Poly Grip so his teeth wouldn't fall out during his performance. Or getting John Lee Hooker's grits from Denny's. All big time promoter stuff.
It's it's the grits from Denny's? It's in the rider. It's like the green M&Ms.
It wasn't in the rider. We gave it to him. We accommodated him.
And Denny's in Annapolis has no idea who they're making their grits for. No. But that's wonderful. Well, you had a monkey wrench thrown into your works the other day with your parking. You were supposed to be parking at the Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium.
Right.
And they went and decided to be good in lacrosse this year. And there is an NCAA semifinal lacrosse game now on Saturday, the 19th.
Right. Well, we knew about that they had the quarterfinals there when we booked the parking lot, and we both agreed it shouldn't be a problem because they've had those before. But like you said, a lot of local teams got in it, and they knew it was going to be a problem. So we had to go look for other spaces, and they had. They still were kind enough to give us, a limited number of spaces just in case we couldn't get the word out in this short a turnaround. To park there. So, but to make it easy for everybody, we did get the lot at the park and ride at Riva Road, and the State Highway Administration was very accommodating, turned it around very quick for us, and we diverted all the buses but a handful to that parking lot for the Western Shore, and then we had the same thing actually happen on the Eastern Shore, but early enough on that we could make the change easier. That we usually park at Ken Island High School on the Eastern Shore. Now we can change it to Mattapique
Elementary School. So if you're coming to the Chesapeake Bay Blues Festival, which is the 19th and 20th of May, park at the Park and Ride on Riva and Harry Truman Road right there. Mm-hmm. Or the Mattapique Elementary School out on Ken Island and get on the yellow school buses there. And the bus transportation to Sandy Point is free.
And the parking lots in both cases are free.
That's true. So it's not going to cost you anything to park. You're not going to have to do anything there. Tickets are still available.
Yes.
And you can get them at bayblues.org.
Correct.
And what are the ticket prices?
They're $80 a day and $130 for 2 days. And at the event, they're $95 a day and 2 days are not available.
Okay. And for $95, I'm going to quick cheat and go to the website, but Vanessa Collier, Chubby Carrier and the Bayou Swamp Band, Brandon Tasnidar, Heather Gillis Band, Mike Zito, Delbert McClinton, Brian Setzer's Rockabilly Riot, Deanna Bogart, who's been here a number of times, and she's a lot of fun as well. Jaron Blind Boy Paxton, Mr. Sip, Shamika Copeland, Doyle Bramhall, Kebmo Band, and Kenny Wayne Shepherd. In big capital letters at the top of the list because he's your favorite. Close out Sunday night. But the lineup here this year is spectacular. It is keeping the blues alive. I do suggest that if you've never been, go do it. You can't beat the location. And I've heard that from the artists as well as everybody that comes here. It says this is not a fairground. Not necessarily Anne Arundel County Fairgrounds. I mean, even if you look at, Jazz Fest down in New Orleans and whatnot, I mean, it's on a racetrack and it's,
right.
It's got a cool little vibe for the town, maybe a little bit cooler and vibier than Annapolis is. But as far as the location here with the cool breezes off of the bay, keeps it cool, backdrop, and most importantly, the talent is, bar none, some of the best that you're ever going to see.
And all the profits go to charity.
They do. And Don Hooker, you will not see him sleeping underneath the stage, but
no, passed out in the audience.
There might be some geese and ducks, but
first year, just to interrupt you for a second. First year, somebody bought a poster that had Delbert McClinton was the opening act for the Beatles in 1964. So They got Delbert to sign that the first year because he played the first year along. Deanna played the first year as well.
How many years has Deanna Bogart played?
I think about four or five.
I'd say 4, yeah.
4 or 5, yeah.
Well, she did play with somebody else too, Magic Dick. And
Yeah, she played with the Blues Cruise review or whatever it was called.
Okay. Chesapeake Bay Blues Festival. Go there, get it, bayblues.org, get your tickets, save a couple bucks. Don't wait to get them at the gate, even though you are able to get them at the gate. But I think your line is a little bit easier to get in and you be able to groove and dance and have a great time on Saturday and Sunday, May 19th and 20th, which is also Preakness Day, which is it always is. And that's a good way to remember when the Chesapeake Bay Blues Festival is. And I thank you very much, Don Hooker and Sarah Petska, for coming in all the way up here to Annapolis from Southern Maryland. And we look forward to seeing you guys in a couple weeks.
Okay. Thanks for the support. Thanks for the plug.
Thanks for having us.
So there you have it, the 20th Chesapeake Bay Blues Festival coming right here to Annapolis, May 19th and May 20th at Sandy Point State Park. Parking is free at the Park and Ride on Truman Boulevard and over at Mattapique Elementary School on the Eastern Shore. Tickets are available at bayblues.org. And if talking to Don and Sarah wasn't enough to get you motivated to get on out to Sandy Point Park, let's end this podcast a little bit differently. And we'll just give you some snippets of years past.
Chicago. Gotta get back to the Midwest, baby. I miss that deep dish taste. Sitting on the roof at the Ranger Field, cold wind right over the lake. Meet in Chicago, on Wabash Avenue. Meet in Chicago. Everybody got play the blues. Ladies and gentlemen, 6-time Grammy Award winner, Mr. Buddy Guy.
It's Geography Fun Fact time. Whether you're a Marylander or you're out, thank you for visiting our beautiful state. 50 million pounds of seafood come out of this body of water every year. Everything we love to eat. And lastly, those of you who are thinking about swimming, and these are facts. The largest fish, not mammal, fish ever caught in the Chesapeake Bay was caught on the westbound span, which is the span you see closest to us. In 1991, a man caught a 910-pound nurse shark underneath the Chesapeake Bay. So feel free to go out and swim. Take advantage of that. I only topped that by, in 1987, another fisherman caught a 10-foot-long bull shark. Now, nurse sharks are kind of like going to happy hour with somebody. We all know bull sharks will eat your transmission. We know they're up this far because they can go in cold, salt water. They can also, do a little bit of fresh water. But please feel free to, take a swim out there. But again, can you imagine a better setting? This is why we love it so much here.
And here come the rain.
We never going to make that bridge tonight, baby. Crowds, late past the train, and it feels like I can't hear you.
We can't control the rain.
And it do it again. And it and it feels like rain. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to do me a favor. Please do me a favor. Give me one moment of silence for the greatest guitar player that ever lived. The late Mr. B.B. King, ladies and gentlemen. Let's one moment of silence, if you don't mind. Thank you.
This has been the Maryland Crabs Podcast with Tim Hamilton and John Fernay. Sure to follow them in all the regular places, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and online at themarylandcrabs.com. Take a moment to rate us on iTunes. Now, get the hell out of my kitchen. Seriously, go!
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.